Bill. The road on border. 80th, 65th, and then going up to Old Fence Our Place, that's all over. There's Joel's going from 80th south, and then I go north, and then I'll like the road from that stream.
Not good feed.
Looks good.
Yeah. We don't grow that up.
Yes. It doesn't do as well on the plate.
No, it doesn't. Like say.
I have one.
So that's just.
Pass it down.
How long is that? You get bids on that?
I have it in hand. You want me to?
Sure thing. Just sold it.
Sorry for the delay.
Well, I have it. Cost us.
Did you? How many? What is that? 72 feet? 27?
Yeah.
I brought one with just in case.
One of the two. Oh. That's up on the top of
Right.
We have a quorum at 7:32, so I will call the meeting to order. First item is the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. Next item is open forum.
Bill Mace, live over here. It was brought to my attention on primary voting day. Our handrails outside could be a little more accessible. Right now they run parallel to the sidewalk. And there was some folks maybe walking with a cane, standing by the steps, and they can't reach the handrail to steady themselves coming up the handrails. So I think if guy come up with like a U welded onto the post that's already there, that would help them grab the handrail as they start the step. So just it was pointed out to me that there was a little difficulty with that, and it'd probably be a good fix and not a ton of money, so that's what I got.
Alright, Jesse, John Bell. I gave you guys all of these things that says like Sandy County on the top, first page. If you go to the second page, I'm sorry, page 3 on this. Park fee dedications at $300. I missed one here. I'm missing the page. You guys have page 4?
Yeah.
No, I did page 4 too. I'm sorry. Subdivision preliminary plat approval. Do you see where it says that right above where I put the star on park fee dedications?
Yep.
That's Sandy County. When you do a preliminary plat, it's $500. Don't matter if it's 1 lot or 100 lots. You give them $500 and you give them $2,000. The $2,000 for the engineering and the legal fees. The park fees is $300 per lot per park fee dedication. If you go to page 4, this is where the light dinged in my head. We were at Baldwin Township. Me and Jason got a plat going there. It's 15 lots. While we were in there, they gave us, we had to fill this out and do it. They're $25 per lot times the number of lots plus $375. So their plat fee, preliminary plat fee was $975. Right? So we signed it, paid that. Page 6, if I did Isanti County and we did Silver Lake Oaks LLC, which we got right now with 21 lots, and we did Silver Lake Pines, with the park fees and the lot per diem that they have, preliminary plat, Silver Lake Oaks would be $8,800. Silver Lake Pines would be $4,600 for a total of $13,400. See that on page 6? If you go to page 7, that's the cost to do it in Baldwin Township. To produce the same amount of lots, 8 lots, there's 7 lots and 21 lots. Total on that is $18,250. Princeton Township, to do these lots in your guys' township, we wrote you guys a check for $47,600. Meaning your plats fee for preliminary plat is $500 per lot, and then your park fee dedication is $1,200 a lot. So all of that total is this $47,600. If you go to the last page, page 9, for us to build a development in your township for 21 and 8 lots, 7 lots, I'm sorry, that we did, we gave you the $46,700. To do it in Baldwin Township, which is more expensive land, it's $29,350 less than what you guys charged. If you go to Isanti County, it's $34,200 less than what you guys charged. As well as your building permits. They're double the price as any other one of these counties or townships. I believe, and just heard that Jason Hill isn't here, but I believe there's state statutes that you guys got to go by this. I'm not sure, but I full-heartedly feel the last administration that was in here, I think if you go back to 2002, 2005, pull up your records, you'll find these lots were $50 per lot. I think along the way, somebody added a 0 to the 5 to the 50 and made it 500. And I think somebody along the way took the park fee dedications and took it from 600 and made it to 1,200.
I know I'd questioned that in the past as a board. You know, I was singled out because of it, but I know I did question because this park fee money, we don't have any parks that we maintain. There was, what's that?
We don't even have any plan.
No, there was thoughts, or they said, well, if we gotta put a bike trail in, we gotta maintain it. But we're not putting in any bike trails. I wholeheartedly agree with you on the park dedication fee, because that was one that we just got it sitting in there, but what's it doing? Why are we charging this if we're not doing anything with it?
Yeah,
I wish Jason Hill was in here, but I believe it reads that in order to withhold park dedication fees, it's a dedication. And it needs to be dedicated to a piece of real estate you already have.
Before you
And
even,
that's before you can hold the fees. And you'd have to check with Jason, but I believe the state of Minnesota has guidelines to everything you can charge. And like Jesse says, wherever these numbers came from have gotten way out of line by some,
I think it was the former administration trying to limit the growth in the township and just,
yeah.
Wholeheartedly
Just
agree,
Needless to
100%.
say, as more developers come, you guys gotta,
The rule of thumb in most municipalities and some more urban townships is 10% of the land value or 10% of the land. And $1,200 is something, a number of my clients, even municipal, have $1,200 per lot. Now, the one thing you have to consider is, do you want to purchase a little piece of land at some point and create a small lot? That's something really the town board needs to give the planning commission.
where are your other clients that you're talking about that are $1,200 a lot?
Livonia Township's 1,200, I checked on that today.
How much is it per lot for preliminary plat fee?
I did not check, I didn't know we were talking about that, I just knew you were bringing up the park dedication fee, so I checked on that, so.
Yeah, Baldwin's, what was Baldwin, 800?
And they just switched that a few years ago, because actually Sherburne County actually used to get all their park dedication fee. I talked to Todd Maloney, and it was prior to Todd getting on the board down there, that the park dedication fees went to Sherburne County, so I don't know when you're checking with Isani County, does that stay within the township, or does Isani County get that? Because I know as far as with Wyanett Township, I don't think they do really anything in the way of handling their building permits or any of that stuff. So does that all go to the county, or does the township get to keep that?
What you got in front of you in page number 1 through 3, I think that's all of Isani County's files right there that I pulled off the internet today. Baldwin Township is when we were there. We had a meeting with you guys on Monday or Tuesday, and we had one with them on Wednesday, and that's when all of a sudden the bell went off that everything was too high. Seriously, $30,000 to $34,000 for what it is, that's just crazy.
and according to the land value, I mean, the land down in Livonia Township is
Double.
$8,000 to $10,000 an acre.
I just sold 10 acres of land, I got $10,000 an acre for it, so.
Yeah, so I mean, you're comparing
No, that's not,
apples.
that's in, here in Princeton, right on Aspen Road, right down the road from you guys.
Yeah, you went and did it.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that maybe our
And
lot
it'd be
fees are a little high,
happening
but our
right
park dedication fees, I look at that, if we're gonna be developing and adding residents to this township, at some point in time, they're gonna wanna start seeing some amenities. I mean, maybe we can negotiate out the $1,200, but at some point in time, if we're gonna continue on adding residents, they're gonna wanna see a park, they're gonna wanna see a trail, they're gonna wanna see something, so I'm not opposed to that. I mean, the other stuff, I mean, we could probably look at that and check out to see when and where and why it was changed, but
When and if it was changed and you guys didn't do the proper procedure, if somebody added a zero to something, is there anything that relates to that or happens to that, or does it have to go in front of the community?
The town board did approve the 2020 fees. I don't know what month it was, probably January. So,
Correct, I believe they did, but to be honest with you, I did development in 2001, 2002, Autumn Woods, 38, south of Princeton. I haven't done a development in 20 years. When we did Silver Lake Pines, me and Jason and Joss, all the numbers were fresh to me, just like they are to you guys, because you guys haven't been in this position before. So when you guys sit in this position, you don't know the numbers, none of them are different than I do. When I seen the numbers, I thought, shit, did the prices go up? But it wasn't until I went to Baldwin Township that I realized, whoa, something else is wrong. And that's why I'm telling you this right now, because there's more to the world that happened than what just them going up. I mean, if you, like I said, if you went back, you agreed on 2020, but you didn't know any difference, just like when we paid for them on Silver Lake Pines. Versus now that I see what's going on in Isani County and right south of you, it's out of control. It's not even a comparison. $30,000 is a hell of a lot of money.
If I can respond, there is a long-term plan to have a bicycle trail all the way from, it's already at Princeton, it's to get up to Black Lake. And the township would probably be responsible for obtaining some of that land.
Yeah, don't get us wrong, we're all behind the park fees too. We're just saying they're way out of line.
That's why when
According
this
to
came up
Everything else.
5-6 years ago, that we better build up a park dedication, that's when it went up to 1,200 a lot.
When did it go up to 500 for a preliminary plat?
That I couldn't tell you. That probably was before I was on board.
Full-heartedly, I believe this was done to stop developers from coming to this township, just like the past administration didn't want developments in this township. this is a bulletproof way to stop a developer. Why would I want to develop in your township when I could go to Baldwin Township and be $30,000 less in my pocket? I mean, that's just the nuts and bolts of it right there. Something was done differently, I wholeheartedly believe. That's it. I just figured I'd bring it to your attention.
So I'm a little nervous being in a room with a lot of people at the moment. So I'm Joyce Brozek, and I live out east of Princeton on 1306 65th Avenue. And I have two things to address. One is that a couple weeks ago we had a plane come in and land on the property adjacent to us at 1305 65th Avenue. And we were I called the county to find out if they zoned that and controlled it, and they told me I had to come to the township. And so I called Mr. Hiller and spoke to him about it because we were concerned about planes landing just over our border of our property, because the area that they came across is kind of like, you know, it's out in front of our house, and it's like my husband was coming up the hill from mowing, and as he came up the top of the hill, he heard it, looked up, and he said, all I saw was black tiger. And if he had been maybe down in the valley, it wouldn't have happened. But to be coming up that hill and then having the plane coming, it just was like, you know, my windows rattled, you know, the whole scenario is, it's like, are we getting bombed or what's going on here? But so that's why I addressed the issue as to whether the township had to approve it or not.
For there to be a legitimate air landing strip, it has to be approved by FAA. It has to be on their list, more or less. If it is an approved parking or a landing strip, only the people who own it can land on it.
Okay.
Unless a pilot has permission to land on it, or it's an emergency landing. A pilot can land anywhere they want to in an emergency, including on a highway. And you see it once in a while, but only an emergency. The only thing you can probably do is try to get the tail number from the plane. If you could see if you see the plane sitting, and report it to FAA.
Okay, the one person I thought it was, the owner did come around and talk to us because somebody on the board did contact him. Did you say that was you, Dan?
No, I did.
Okay, you did. And he did tell us that it was not an emergency landing, that his buddy had been flying across, saw the field was mowed and baled, and just wanted to drop in. Literally. Okay, so so he told us it was a once, probably ever, that would ever happen, but still it did happen. And so, when the plane that we thought it was, he told us, no, that's not the one. That wasn't him. So it's like, okay, hope it doesn't happen again. So that's where we stood on that. So
I believe there is an approved airstrip on 50th, I believe.
Yes.
But that's a little ways away from your place.
yes, that's about a mile
Yeah.
and a half from us. Yes, and that is the Reynolds. I
Pardon?
think it's Reynolds Air Strip or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And that one is approved by FAA.
Yes.
I know, because it's on our docket.
Yes. So that was.
That's about the only recourse that would be the tail number and report it to FAA.
Okay, all right, thank you. The other issue I would like to talk to you is about the road we live on. I have, the last couple of times that the road grader has come up, they have started grading the road about halfway down, which is just at my son's property, which is just before us. And then they come up the one side, they turn around, they have these 5 or 6 tires behind them, and they pack the gravel down on the one side of the road, leaving a very nice little wide strip on the other side that will not have any gravel on it before much longer. when it happens, I'm usually working on my computer and I can't get up there fast enough to determine if it's a township plow that's doing it or if it is a individual who has suddenly decided to plow the road to make it easier for themselves. I don't
It's a
know.
roller.
Huh?
Then if it's a Packer, then it's ours.
Okay, so I guess I don't understand why it doesn't even start plowing until it's halfway up the road, and then when it goes back, it stops the same distance down.
That was not sprayed with chloride, was it?
No, no.
Okay, so then I can't answer that, we'll look into it.
Oh, yeah, we'll look into it.
Hey, thank you very much, sirs, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Sorry, Scott, what other townships were there that was $1,200 per park fee dedication?
You know, I'll have to check with now then, or actually, that's not a city. But again, I'm more familiar with cities, but I'm sure there's urban townships that are probably a lot more than $1,200. Probably not in this area, but around the Twin Cities area.
Yeah. Further south, correct.
But I've got, you know, other cities that have $1,200.
Right,
City,
right.
Excelsior.
I get what you're saying, but I don't think we could compare now then or Elk River did.
And always said that in reference to, it is a common park dedication fee that I'm seeing in a lot of subdivision ordinances.
To the south, correct.
Athens and Sanford Township and Sandy County have lower tax valuations than Princeton Township.
Well, I'm not so sure about that. I own houses in
I've
both.
checked with them.
I own houses in both of them. I have 2 houses in Sandy County and 50 acres in Sandy County, and I own land in Princeton Township and a house in Princeton Township. I would say that I can bring in my tax statements on everything I got.
Their bare land is valued higher here than it is in Athens and Sanford Township.
Well, I think you got state guidelines you gotta look at, for sure. I think just suggested to you, I mean, I have no choice but to do what we're doing. I mean, we all get how the ball rolls. I'm just bringing it to your attention because we gotta write another check for $25,200 for Silver Lake Pines, or I'm sorry, Silver Lake Oaks. I've already talked to our attorney about what's going on with this, and they're fully aware of the dollar value. And I'm not saying anything good or bad, I just wanna make sure that we're all on the same page and know how this is going, you know? Because like I said, it's $30,000 more it's nothing to shake a stick at, and you can't disagree with it.
And just the bare land value per acre or per lot, have you figured that for Silver Lake Oaks?
You guys are $500 a lot. Like saying it's 500.
No, what's the bare land value of those, each of those 21 lots is only $500?
You can't go by that.
Well, the park dedication under state statute is based upon the bare land value, and generally it's 10%. That's been the rule of thumb in Minnesota for years and years. And then cities have, you know, at $1,200 in most places, that's a really good deal. You know, park dedication in other cities I deal with can be $5,000 to $6,000 a lot, depending on where you're at, because of the high land values.
Well, correct. We paid $300,000 for 75 acres. There's your math. I mean, you're talking of land, and I mean, you go to Elk River, you're going to be at 30,000 an acre. There's a world of difference. That's not, you're not holding apples to apples or candles to candles there. That's
Well,
just,
you know, we could do, if the township wants us to do a study of you know, how equal it is in terms of roughly 10% and what that is for park dedication fees. But they will set park dedication fees again for 2021, probably in January. And, you know, if they want us to look at it, we can certainly look at
I think
it.
the
Or
big,
before that.
I think the big point here is even Livonia's got a park, correct?
Yeah.
And if you get closer to Elk River, they've got parks. As you guys said, right now, we don't have a plan. It's just putting money in the piggy bank. So,
and we're talking about the properties that are butted up to Princeton Township. We're not skipping townships. We're talking to the closest ones. I mean, we didn't go north. I guarantee you, if we go north of here, it's going to get less. It's not going to get more. So I mean, you can bring up the salt as far as you want. I can go up to the Canadian border, and we'll be down to 50 or 5.
I just
No,
gave
I
it
get
as
it.
an example.
I get it. Just two-way street. We got to stay on the same page.
Same book.
Right?
Anybody else, or open forum?
Marcia Anderson, and I just would like to say a few things about Princeton Township. There was a stranglehold on our township for a long time here, and there was a lot of misinformation and abuse. I'm going to say outright abuse in our township towards citizens, where if you came forward and tried to address something, you were attacked, you were demeaned, and that's when I started getting involved here. I was watching what was going on, and we got new people elected, and other people were forced off. And Thomas Duden was attacked viciously and unremittedly several times during his first year as a township supervisor. It was totally inappropriate. And this stranglehold has been on our township for quite some time. We are finally getting truth, facts, and action. And I want to thank all of you for the wonderful job that you are doing for our township, because only certain people were being served. We were all being taxed, but only certain people were getting the proper services they deserved. When 90% of the township roads that were required to be paved were not taken care of in 10 years, that is telling. And monies were sitting there being built every year. Even going back to 2014, Greg would come in and ask Connie. Those two handled the checkbook and the accounting. And he would ask her, how are we doing on our budgets? And how do we do? And they would come forward and say, well, revenues exceeded expenditures by $77,000 last year. That was in 2014. And that continued year after year after year. That is not the way a township should be running. Where monies are collected, only certain things are done. Bill has proven that state statutes were not followed, and we did not have services given to many citizens in this community who pay taxes to have their roads maintained, which is one of the significant tasks of a township, is to maintain the roads. Only certain people got roads maintained, and we were told that it's being done the same way it's been done the last 20 years. Well, guess what? The use of our roads certainly was not the way it was 20 years prior. And the township board, when that development back there was developed, and the township roads were there, was promised to be upgraded at the point of 50% development. Well, we're nearing over at least 100% on those roads. It was more than time that those roads got developed. People tried to say they were Eldon's roads. They were my roads. I don't live on them, but I use them. And additionally, instead of addressing the issues, that former chair tried to pit residents against one another. Rather than do the right thing for the township, residents are pitted against one another. That's not the way a township should operate. Funds should not be bankrolled and not spent to do the town's business. There shouldn't be a facade of what the township has in place. And this was a pretty empty township as far as both principle, facts, as well as substance. A wear manual was basically pulled off of math, and there was nothing followed. And I know a lot about that because I actually developed a huge wear program which was adopted by one of the largest healthcare facilities in this state. So don't sit here and buy the crap that was put out in a letter that no one has disputed. Taxes were not raised. They have not been raised. Our township will be hurting in the future because of this. And it made it look like services were great here. They weren't. And I pointed out time and time again how the narrative was controlled and manipulated. And anyone who came forward was smeared and attacked, intimidated, bullied, and pressured, ridiculed, and name-called. I don't tolerate that, and that's why I stood up month after month, trying to fight for this township to restore it to decency. And again, I thank all of you for coming forward and doing such an excellent job for this township, because the monies that were spent ineffectively in the past. And it has been proven that there are ways to do this much more efficiently and effectively. So thank you. Thank you for the time.
Yeah, she's right. You guys did a great job turning around. I think you were all jumped on a plane that was on the way to crash. You guys fixed it in the air.
I agree.
Well, kudos to y'all.
Is there anybody else for open forum? If not, Mr. Whitcomb has also requested that we have an open forum at the end of the year. So we will add that word in.
If needed, yeah.
Pardon?
If needed.
If needed.
And one more thing then before we get off that.
Okay.
Instead of maybe taking our $25,200 for park fee dedication, why don't we give you our Outlot A? There's a simple solution. You don't have to answer that, but there you go.
Is that the one that's on the corner of the new development?
Southwest corner, correct?
It'd make a perfect little park for the community.
There is a tax forfeited outlot next to it as well. I did contact the county, what, 6 months ago on that.
Yeah, and we'd recommended to the town board and the planning commission not to take any land until you've really done a study to see if you want it. You know, I think if there are plans to do some trail and the segments, and the township has to put money into it, it makes more sense you've got that money in cash, rather than taking a piece of land that's an outlot that they can't use, that you may never ever use. So the cash is a better deal for the township than a piece of land. So.
Thanks for the offer.
I'm sorry?
Thanks for the offer.
You're welcome.
Any other open forum? If not, we'll close open forum for now, and we'll move on to the next item is approved minutes of the July 21st regular meeting. Any comments, additions, corrections? If not, accept the motion to approve minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion made by Bill.
I would second the motion.
And seconded by Mr. Thomas. Is there any further discussion on the minutes? If not, we'll vote to approve the minutes of the July 21st meeting. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Clerk-Treasurer Report, Mr. Dahl.
Couple of notes before I get the numbers. Last month we received 2 payments from Minnesota MMB, the Minnesota Management Budget. One for $496, which was a tax distribution share, and the other was $1,318.16. That was reimbursement for the presidential nominating primary. The expenses we incurred for that, turned that into the state, and that came through last month. The third receipt was from Wax County for the tax settlement, which was $158,023.07. So that was the big chunk in the receipts. So our total beginning balance on July 1st was $666,692.05. Receipts of $300,927.71. Disbursements of $349,474.16 for an ending balance of $619,145.60. And then we add to that our investment balance, which is now at 105,817.53. So the total balance is 724,963.13 as of the end of July. You also have the payroll registers and distribution on that. We have the July payroll, which is standard, plus the payroll for the election judges that did this month. So there are two payroll statements. The claims, I want to be sure that everybody signs that. This time we got away without signing these things last time, so please be sure to check those and get those signed. Let's see here, the Bremer Bank, about this note, we're having maturity on our certificate of deposit, maturity date. It's a 24-month CD, maturity date is August 22nd. And at that point, the rate is going to change. I talked to Mark O'Lean, and the circumstances affecting interest right now are pretty grim. So he was able to get us 0.45%. And why congratulating? I said, at least we don't have to pay you to keep the money, which is happening in Europe, I guess. But yeah, so that, but he's going to keep an eye on that and advise us if there's a possibility of a change to get a better rate on that at some point. But he just, you know.
In that amount?
That's 105,817.53. That's the certificate of deposit. That had been carried at 100,000, but we had earned 5,870.53. So when we went through the audit, the auditor recommended that we add that in. It hadn't been added into our statement, so we went back and did that. I got a proposal from the auditor. Did I send that? Did I send that out? My bad on that, but it came in the other day, and he said, our firm is evaluating all of our client fees, and our leadership team has indicated a minimum pricing for your 2020 regulatory basis audit of $10,000. So, you may want to do something about that. I don't know. That's what we got from them. If somebody wants to, I don't know if you want to do anything in terms of a research or request for bids or anything on that to see if there's some options available.
What was the open?
Well, it got complicated last year.
6,500?
Yeah, it got complicated because of the two phase. So it got to be a little on the expensive side too, but yeah, that's a significant increase from last year.
Just as a note, I am a CPA, and the state has increased the regulation process with the CPA firms quite substantially, and causing the firms to incur quite a bit more costs to do audits. And also the liability insurance to do audits has gone up substantially in the last 5 years because of litigation. And so that's driving the costs of audits quite substantially, just as a note.
Yeah, he didn't include anything of what was driving that. It was just a quick note on that. I keep getting communication from various agencies in the government about the coronavirus relief fund. I haven't seen any extraordinary expenses. They're usually related to if you've got a hospital, if you got police, if you got fire, things of that nature. So far, the only thing I've been able to identify is $60 for GoToMeeting for 3 months. Probably not worth the trouble of going through that, but it keeps coming up. But every time I look at the qualifications, it just seems that it doesn't really apply to our situation anyway, like it nailed down.
Are you speaking on the CARES Act grant that was?
Yeah.
Out there?
Yeah.
I argue with you wholeheartedly on that.
Okay, where are we missing out on that?
There's other townships that are doing stuff and purchasing stuff. I think we're crazy for not filling that out. Actually, I was gonna bring that up with new business, that we get that filled out by the end of the week, so that's gotta be sent in by the 15th of September. There's multiple different deals that you can put into that category. I mean, we can upgrade your computer in your office. When you were doing your go-to meetings, did you use your laptop or does the township have a laptop? The furnace in here, it's right on Matt's website, the first email that they sent out. If we wanted to upgrade our furnace system and go to the new 3-inch HEPA filter, we can include that in there. We didn't have any of the spit shields, I call them. I don't know what the legal term for them is, but we didn't have them up for our voting here. Technically, I think we were supposed to. That's an expense that we can put in on that. We can have masks by the door for people. There are fire departments that are getting stuff from their townships where they're buying vehicles, they're buying turnout gear. I spoke with Ron Lawrence on it. Our Lucas machines are the extremely old Lucas machines that run off of the air tanks. Those air tanks we can't even use at the end of the year because they're going to be out of service. We can use some of that money and purchase stuff for our fire department that's going to take an expense away from us later on down the road. I definitely think we should be going after that. Not only that, businesses in your township that are directly affected by COVID, you can give them grants. We got bars and restaurants that are getting their asses kicked right now. I don't know the gal that owns Shiny, but my wife said she put on Facebook she's closing up due to COVID. We can give grants to these businesses. We got a small chunk. We only got 56 grand. I know other townships that got, several $100,000, and they're trying to figure out a way to spend it. And I think we're crazy not to go after that money. I mean, I don't want to go out and spend money foolishly where we're going to get on the hook later on down the road, but there's definitely stuff that we can look at as expenses and write them off. I mean, COVID is, I don't know. I really think we should be going after that money.
I did listen to the CARES meeting that was with Matt, and there was a lot of red flags. I mean, there's probably some things we can take advantage of, but they strongly cautioned that this all has to be able to, pass the smell test with the audit. And if we purchase $40,000 worth of equipment and we don't get that money, that's out of our budget, that's out of our pockets now, because they won't reimburse it. So we just got to be careful. I know I've heard there are a lot of the townships that are spending that money, and I just don't want to get caught with.
Was that the first meeting or the second meeting? Because they've done two meetings on it, and the second one in Sherburne County did a meeting with their townships and had a completely different answer than what you just gave.
Even Steve, one of the attorneys said they strongly cautioned against.
Doesn't Matt now have a attorney that is actually specializing in this?
I haven't listened to it.
I thought they have, and maybe I'm incorrect in that, but I thought they had an attorney that was going to be his area. I mean, we have to apply by September 15th. I'm not saying let's start spending money tomorrow, but at least sit down, fill out the application, get the funds, and then sit down and seriously look at, okay, what do we think is going to be a kosher expense? What do we want to put our neck out on the line for, and go that route? I mean, to walk away from $56,000, I think that's, we're not doing a service to our township if we're going to just walk away from that money.
And I'm sure they're recording those meetings on the Matt site, so I would recommend that we all listen to that to see.
Wednesday.
And tomorrow night from 7 to 8 is a meeting.
Tomorrow night from 7 to 8 is a district meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. District 8.
Yeah, they just had a meeting, was it last Tuesday?
Usually it's in the mornings.
I think it was last Tuesday. They had rebuttal to their first meeting on the CARES Act.
Okay.
And there was a question and answer here. I was up north camping, so I was not available to be on that one for, maybe it was the beginning of the month, I apologize, but they did just do another rebuttal on that. And I know Wynett Township, you know, you and I briefly talked about that. Wynett Township's starting to look at some of the stuff that they can buy for the fire department. I'm not advocating buying stuff for the fire department since I'm on it, but I mean, they're even starting to take a second look at this, that instead of just walking away from that money, because if we don't spend it, it just goes to the county, and if the county don't spend it, it goes down to the city.
Yeah,
so if we can keep that here, I think we should at least attempt to look at some of the costs that we could, you know, save around here. I mean, the camera systems, I mean, we could probably look at that. I've made the comments about trying to maybe go paperless. I mean, how many reams of paper do we go through every meeting? I mean, iPad Pros, they're $1,000 a crack.
Well, we've actually passed a resolution, I think it was, to purchase AV.
Okay, then you can't do that. If it's in your budget, you can't spend any money. So like I'm gonna reference the fire department again, but they were talking about maybe coming out and see if townships wanted to give money to go towards a new command vehicle. They can't do that because that was already in CIP, so they could possibly call it a medical rescue vehicle. And Ron said he called down and talked to the state, and they're thinking that's maybe a kosher expense. I don't know.
I don't want to get into semantics on whether it's a command vehicle or something. I don't want to go there. But
there are meetings, it's Tuesday or Wednesday, I know I've sat in on 3 of them, I believe, and some people coming to it. One lady said that she had to go to the county seat to get ballots for the primary, and she thought she should get reimbursed. And they said, well, how many miles? And it's 12 miles round trip. So she was going to fill out a form for $7.20 or whatever it was, and well, the paper was probably more than that. So some of the things that were called in, they said that definitely do not try it.
I'll have to listen to that one.
So is the procedure then you apply for the money?
Yep. As far as I understand.
So essentially what you do, they hold the money and then you send it all back.
Correct,
right.
And it has to be done by September 15th.
It's $25 a resident, so it's $56,000 for Princeton Township is designated as general.
And I could be a real jerk and ask where the money is coming from.
Well, that's kind of why
I mean, they're manufacturing it. I'm sorry.
They're going to print out free
I'm
money.
not a supervisor. I need to shut up. Man, that's not free. There's money there. Let's go get it.
It's manufactured in the USA, though.
That's right.
That's my 2 cents on it. I think we should at least attempt to get it, and like I said, we don't have to start spending the money tomorrow morning, but maybe sit down and really compile a list of some of the things that you think would be a kosher expense. And you know, if we don't spend it all, we don't spend it all. I'm not saying we have to spend the whole deal, but if there's stuff we can look at upgrading here and save our residents some money, well, why not?
It's not like, I mean, it sounds as though if we don't get the money, it is going somewhere else.
It goes to Mille Lacs County first. They get a crack at spending it, and whatever they don't spend, it goes down there. So I know the hospital has their hands up to the city of Princeton deal. So
how much of that could potentially go to the businesses that have been affected?
I don't know that there's a dollar amount on it, but it did. What on the very first email? Let me see if I can find it here quick. But on one of the emails that Matt sent out, it did say you could do grants to your businesses.
What bar did you say was closing?
Not a bar. I didn't
No, Shepherd Shanty.
For the boutique store.
Oh,
Yeah, over
okay.
by your.
But I mean, hell, I went by Shooters on Friday night. It was their prime rib special, and there were 7 cars in the parking lot. You can't make it on 7 cars in the parking lot. I mean, it's.
They were full though. There's 15 people in the car.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you just. I don't know. Like I say, I mean, if we can help our area businesses where they're paying taxes to us, why not at least look at it? We can legitimately give them some money and, you know.
Bill, I believe you were on the same meeting as I was when they cautioned against giving any money out toward businesses.
Well, that's, what Dan's telling me is that they almost did an about face on the second meeting.
workers too.
I know we did the payroll protection plan for the business, and it sounds like they're really loosening up there. I mean, when they first sent that out, they were talking that was gonna be pretty, you know, had to have all your paperwork and everything, and now it sounds like they're really even laxing on that, so that's information my dad and the accountant had, but I don't know. All this stuff was created, get the money, get it out, and then figure out the rules later. I mean, that's exactly what they did, so,
I do need to suggest one legitimate use of the money. Our bulletin board is shot. We need to replace the one outside the posting board.
well, there's that. I mean,
It'd be about $30 worth, right?
you know, the go-to meeting subscription, I mean, there's a legitimate COVID expense if we have to go back to virtual meetings, which I don't want to do, but there's an expense. I mean, we got people over here videotaping the deal, whether we hire them or we put it out for bid and see if somebody else in the township wants the job, we could probably sign a contract with them and reimburse them.
We probably have to argue that it's brand new, that we had never done that before.
Yeah, we haven't paid them.
Yeah, you haven't paid us before, so.
Correct, I know, and I don't know the legitimacy on that. If, you know, you can say, okay, we're gonna sign a contract now, or they all of a sudden say, we're not doing it for free, you have to pay us, you know.
One thing you could look into doing is updating your bulletin board instead of it making it a literal bulletin board. You could make it a digital screen. It could be an outdoor screen that has meeting, and then you can put notices right on it.
Andrea, that board's been out there for the last 20 years. That's the way we've always done it.
I'm sorry, but if the Lion King can remaster 15 times, you guys can try.
I like the way you think.
Like I say, I mean, I went back and double checked my emails, and the application deadline is the 15th of September, which you just said is our next township meeting, so either we have to do a special meeting prior to that, or just, from what I understand, it's a 4-line questionnaire. It's a pretty simple form to fill it out, get it in, and then we got a little bit of time, because you gotta have it, I don't remember the exact date in November, but you got until November to figure out how you're gonna spend the money. And if we don't spend it, we don't spend it back, and it is what it is.
And it absolutely has to be spent before the end of the year.
It has to be spent before, I believe, the second week in November.
Bill,
It doesn't even make it a Christmas.
And no Christmas bonus.
Bill, did they, so you guys have it set up that you're gonna get computers then already in your budget?
No, we were just talking over some sort of a projector.
I know that's a big no-no. It cannot be in your budget. So anything that you have as a line item
Because
for this
that'd be
year's
one thing
expense-
is upgrading everybody, because if you all had like an iPod or something that, not an iPod, but.
That too. That's not.
Shut up. Like the iPads, but those you usually have to cloud, but you can do like the Chromebooks. I know the city just got a bunch of new ones that they have the whole packet, it's all set up together, and then all you do is you sign a contract that when, as a chairperson, you take it out, and then if it gets wrecked, you pay for it. And they're usually, I think theirs were only like maybe $300-400, but they're not the Apple, because Apple's real expensive with that. But that's a great feature, because yeah, every time you guys are doing stuff, I see 50 papers going, and I'm like, how much can you print?
The only thing we gotta watch is our Wi-Fi in the building, but
I mean, it's decent.
VPN would be another option for you guys to get those with the VPN process.
So we have a hard time justifying these as COVID expenses, but that's just me. Can you appoint Mr. Hiller and Mr. Whitcomb and me as a subcommittee to submit this?
That's what I was just going to suggest.
Submit that. Thank you.
we can do that. The only thing, I'm supposed to be at a meeting at the fire department tonight, and I'm not. I don't know if that's gonna be our quarterly relief meeting, so I might not be here next month, whether we decide to have a meeting or not.
I just, if we could just get together
Subcommittee.
and just have 2 people with me and we do the form footage.
All right.
Okay, let's go back to the agenda, cash control statement, June payroll claims for approval. Anybody willing to put that together as one motion? Or somebody make a motion to
I
accept?
make a motion to accept the cash control statement, June payroll and claims.
Motion has been made to accept the cash control statement, June payroll and claims for approval. Is there a second?
I would second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to have a cash control statement, June payroll and claims for approval accepted. Is there any further discussion?
Under the claims, you guys are paying for that truck you bought, do I have to abstain for this?
No, we signed a,
Yeah. we signed
I just didn't know if I had
yeah,
to.
you know, you should be good.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the cash control statement June payroll and claims for approval, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion's carried. Certificate of deposit maturity, the new rate, I don't know if we really need to have a motion. It's just going to automatically roll over into 0.045%.
What was the current rate at?
It was 2 something, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was significantly better.
So why are they dropping the rate?
Because our maturity date is the 22nd of this month.
But when we renew, we're only getting the .045?
Yeah, because
0.45.
nothing is paying anything now. There just isn't an option to get a better rate on anything.
Some are through and it's minus. So
It's just how it is right
They
now.
actually gave us a better rate last renewal.
Yeah.
and he will keep us apprised if the rate looks better, that we could probably
Yeah, if there's something we can do.
roll it over. Audit proposal, should we advertise for,
I'd make a motion that we advertise or have Doug look into another audit firm, just to have,
Clear and concise.
not good. So, I'd make a motion that we have Mr. Dahl, the clerk, is that concise enough? Look into another auditing firm, just to get some pricing, comparative pricing.
is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion is made and seconded to put out request for bid on audit proposal. Is there any further discussion?
Does the state do any auditing on that, where you can go through the state for any of that, or are they not working down? I know with the fire department, we switched our retirement to the state one, and we're saving like $9,000 a year having it through Para versus who we had it through before. But,
I don't believe so. They would only come in if there was a discrepancy. Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion's carried. We will, advertise for audit proposals. And I would think that Mr. Hill would probably be able to direct auditors. Moving on to COVID, now we can officially create a subcommittee. That's acceptable. Make a motion to develop a subcommittee
For what?
for the COVID,
With the CARES?
for the CARES.
Oh, that's what you and I.
I don't know that we really need a committee for that, I think that's
Well,
just,
subcommittee, so just.
well, I think what would make more sense is to maybe have a committee to sit down and start coming up with a list of ideas, but as far as just putting in for the application, I believe that would be the clerk and possibly you as the chairman, I believe is all it really, and then we have a committee to sit down with Doug and kind of maybe go over some things and see what we think would be a legit expense. I don't know, whatever you guys decide on it. This week's kind of beat the hell for me, so it won't be this week.
No, that's fine. Well,
Yeah,
I guess that's
wanna-
okay if you and I can just fill out
Yeah, you just
the
wanna-
application, and then if we can create a subcommittee, if somebody wants to make a motion to that effect.
The subcommittee? I'd make a motion that Dan and I and Doug work together on the subcommittee after you and Doug fill out the paperwork.
Motion is made to create a subcommittee for CARES Act expenditures. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Long, Mr. Hiller, Mr. Dahl as the subcommittee.
Mr. Whitcomb.
What's that?
Mr. Whitcomb.
What did I say?
Mr. Wilhelm.
No, I'm sorry.
Too many
Mr. Whitcomb. Mr. Whitcomb, Mr. Hiller, and Mr. Dahl, the subcommittee to come up with a list of CARES expenditures. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Yeah, I seconded it.
Yeah. We're gonna move on to the final plat and development agreement, Mr. Richards.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members of the board. TMK Properties has made application for a final plat. It's located south of County Road 135 70th Street between 80th Avenue and the Rum River. It's within Section 3 with access from 67th Street and then from County Road 135. It's a 5-lot subdivision, total of 96 acres. It's zoned river conservation to and within the Wild and Scenic River. The Planning Commission recommended the final plat at their August 3rd, 2020 meeting. Of course, in July, you had reviewed the preliminary plat. Really, there's no changes from what you approved as part of the preliminary plat. Just a couple things to talk about. We have an existing situation with one of the lots already being developed off of 67th Street with a dwelling. They're creating another lot. The city engineer felt it was appropriate to allow this continued situation in that it has been occurring for some time, even though it doesn't meet the overall requirements for the length of a dead end, but it's already there, it's already used. The river conservation doesn't allow for a cul-de-sac. You'll see it's platted as a cul-de-sac, but it'll be developed as a hammerhead, and that was acceptable to the planning commission and to this township engineer. There is a development agreement. I should probably take a separate motion on that. That's in front of you tonight. That's been reviewed by Jason Hill and Todd McLeod, and I believe the developers have put their input into it also. Park dedication fee for this one is $4,800. We wouldn't charge for the existing developed lot, but just for the 4 new lots. So there's, it was recommended with 11 conditions. There's a resolution in front of you this evening, so I would take action on the resolution if you find it acceptable, and then do another motion for the development agreement, subject to final approval by the township.
One question I had in this, under the road construction, it was going to be improved. Does that mean it's going to be paved, that the developers are paving it, or is that going to be the responsibility of the township?
It's not going to be paved. It will remain gravel because all of the other access to it is already gravel. But they are going to at least construct it to township standards, the new portion of it.
Okay.
I have a question also. What was it here? Is there typically any permitting required for them to do work in the township road? I'm asking.
A lot of townships have right-of-way permits that are required to work in a right-of-way. Okay. I'm not sure if Princeton Township has a right-of-way permit.
Yeah, unfortunately I don't know the answer to that question, but I can certainly ask Todd about that.
And then the other one is just the wording. I know I talked to Jason about number 5 on page 4. It talks about the right-of-way shall be abandoned east of the cul-de-sac. I think that's maybe going to be vacated. So that's some things that need to be changed.
Yeah, the term we have to use is abandonment and not vacation, because it doesn't fit under the requirements of vacation. There is a petition that Jesse John Doe has provided. Jason was on vacation, so did not do the process to get that together for tonight's meeting, but there's no rush with that. You can move forward with the final plat, the development agreement, and then we can abandon that other section with the town council.
I got a question on that too regarding the road. You guys want a letter of credit for a township from the developer for $38,000? It's your guys' road. Why does he need to put up a letter of credit for $38,000 when we're fixing your guys' township road? Does that make sense?
Because you're creating the demand for the new road by adding the additional amounts.
So you need a letter of credit to put just for that amount, to put a hammerhead on?
Again, I wasn't dealing with the numbers that came from the township engineer.
And it's not, I don't believe it's just the hammerhead, it's from the property line to several hundred, 400 feet, I think.
Do you guys ever consider if that's the case of him giving $38,000 to you and you guys paying it with that money when it gets completed? Is that something you ever look at? Is that?
You know, that was something that Jason would have to look at, but it's for this and for other agreements, they use letter of credit.
Sure.
I almost have a little bit to answer your question about the upgrading the road. It's on Woods Head or Leatherhead toward the back. Part of the plat approval process. Very well worked with the plat being improved township standards, but because it's only one additional house, we would expect gravel or asphalt. We're strictly asking for 30-foot line gravel road there with minimum radius last line.
It's the road that's 30, but the surface is only going to be 24, from what I understand. Yeah.
Was the road then now it's 30?
No, no, it's not much. 16?
Yeah. Maybe 20.
So, Mr. Chair, the actions you would require motions for is to approve the resolution that's in your packet for the final plat, and then to consider the second motion to consider the development.
It is 30 feet wide.
The question I have for the first one is, we are still saying that we are granting variance.
Yeah.
And I don't believe we ever, it cites that we've already given granted a variance in a previous meeting, and I don't believe we did.
So we need a motion to approve the resolution.
Yes,
I make the motion to approve the resolution establishing the findings of facts for the Board of Supervisors for the wood push lot on County Road 135 and 70th Street, Section 3 of Princeton Township.
Motion has been made to approve resolution number
That's easier.
2020 dash
23.
2020 dash 23. And it's listed in about 2.5 pages.
Yeah, I don't.
What's that?
I didn't plan on reading the whole thing.
No, it's
20-23, 2020-23.
2020 dash 23.
Okay.
Is there a second to that motion to approve the resolution 2020 dash 13?
I would second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve that resolution. Is there any further discussion? And this is going to be creating a hammerhead, right?
Correct.
Is there any further discussion? If there's no further discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the resolution number 2020-13, granting final approval of the Woods Push Subdivision, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. And then we also need a motion
for the development agreement.
For the development agreement, and at the beginning of the meeting, I believe. It's the development agreement by and between Princeton Township and TMK Properties.
Was there anything unique in this one, Mr. Richards?
No, it's pretty straightforward, in fact. A fairly simple one, just because it isn't as complicated as the Silver Lake Oaks, because they're not building the road, or they are building a portion of the road, but not as complicated. And again, I would make this, with this motion, subject to final approval by the engineer and the attorney.
I would entertain a motion to approve the development agreement by and between Princeton Township and TMK Properties. Is there a motion?
I would add to that motion upon approval of the township engineer and the township attorney.
And that's the motion?
That's the motion.
Motion has been made to approve the development agreement by and between Princeton Township and TMK Properties, subject to approval by the township engineer and the attorney. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Do we have any further discussion related to the development agreement? If not, all in favor of approving the development agreement by and between Princeton Township and TMK Properties, subject to county or township attorney and engineer, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion's carried. And next.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the next item is Studebaker Acres, a final plat at 6588 Alpine Road. This is in section 26. The Planning Commission recommended the final plat at their August 3rd meeting, and at that same July meeting, you had approved the preliminary plat. The property is zoned rural residential district. Essentially, there's just a creation of a new lot. There's a house on one of the lots, and they're creating a additional lot, a new lot on the side of the property. Final plat includes 33 feet of right-of-way. No development agreement required for this. It's already on the township road. So it's a matter of just approving the resolution that's in front of you for this final plat.
Motion to approve the final plat for Studebaker Acres.
I'll make that motion.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
I'd second that.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the final plat for Studebaker Acres. Is there any?
You're approving the resolution, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And that would
I
be,
just want to make sure that that's explicit
okay.
for the minutes.
And that would be 2020-14?
22. 2020-22.
22, I'm sorry.
We just did 23. We're doing them in reverse order.
I want to jump a little bit. 2020-22. Is there any further discussion? If there is no further discussion, we will vote to approve the final plat for Studebaker Acres, Resolution 2020-22. If there is no further discussion, all in favor of the motion to approve that final plat, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion's carried.
Mr. Chair, the next item we have is Jamie and Tanya Lundberg had made application for final plat in section 1 at 5314 60th Street. Subdivision consists of 2 lots. Essentially, they're just redrawing lot lines within property that they already own. Currently, the property is 2 lots, each of which are approximately 10 acres. Final plat shows moving the lot lines such that lot 1 would be 2.5 acres and lot 2 15.73 acres. Applicants would sell the smaller lots and build a new structure on the second lot, and right away would be dedicated for County Road 13, 60th Street. Zone AC Agricultural Conservation District. Again, a grandfathered situation in terms of the lot size. There's already 2 lots and they're just redrawing the lot lines. Here's a resolution in your packet, and it's just a matter of approving the resolution. And that it's on County Road. Obviously, there's no need for a development agreement.
Is there a motion to accept the sketch plan for, no, final plat for Lundberg Farms?
I hate to be a pain, but please make it the resolution. Because it's,
Okay.
if it's just a motion, it's not addressing the resolution.
Okay.
And it's 2020-21.
Is there a motion to accept the resolution for Lundberg Farms 2-lot subdivision?
I would move that resolution.
Motion has been made to approve that resolution by Mr. Duden. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
John. Yeah. Mr. Wilhelm has seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? If there is no further discussion, we'll proceed to vote on resolution 2020-21. All in favor of the resolution to grand final plat to Lundberg Farms 2-lot subdivision, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, no. Motion carried.
The final item that I have is a sketch plan for Scott Moller. It's a sketch plan for a 5-lot subdivision in Section 3 at 65th Street. It's on the east side of the Rum River, essentially just across the river from the TMK development. The subdivision, as I said, consists of 5 lots and 1 outlot on a total of 75 acres. Lots will all access 65th Street. An extension of 65th Street will be constructed in a cul-de-sac. Property is guided, or is zoned RC2, or River Conservation 2, which is adjacent to the river, and the second parcel is zoned Agriculture Conservation, so it's in a split zoning district. The west portion of the site then is within the Weldon Scenic River District. Planning Commission reviewed this, was not very favorable. There's a number of issues that were brought forward by staff and in the report. So the Planning Commission did feel that the town board should comment on it, but again, we're not favorable to the subdivision design as presented. A couple things. The lot line width of lot 3 and 4 is not compliant with the River Conservation District. And the second major issue is that cul-de-sac requirement is 1,400 feet measured from the center line of the street of origin. That isn't essentially where it reaches the property, but it has to go back to County Road 1 because you're creating one long cul-de-sac. There already is a roadway that goes from County Road 1 that serves an existing parcel to the east of this parcel, but it would be one long cul-de-sac that would end at about 2,628 feet and no outlet to that. So the Planning Commission had issues with that also. So there's other issues. Lot A was created that could potentially create issues for the township. That area can be incorporated to Lot 5. The cul-de-sac and length of the dead-end roadway. Again, we're dealing with another cul-de-sac that would be within the river conservation, which isn't allowed. So, would the township be willing to do a hammerhead there, serving more lots on a hammerhead? The fact that we got 2 lots that don't meet the minimum lengths. And just one comment, there is some state land that would receive access off of 65th Street. The access would have to remain, and the developer doesn't have an issue with that. Again, a number of issues with this, but I think the developer tonight is just looking for some comments from the town board. If you have any questions for Scott, but again, the Planning Commission was not favorable to the current design because of the issues that I
That's the one that's making all the difference.
If I remember right, the area just to the
It's like zone.
south and east of lot 3 is like a fish spawning bed or something, and it's protected by, I believe that was done when Studebaker Acres was doing this in his truck accident. His son had it dedicated to PNRs.
So that's the parcel just to the south of lot 2 is just the statement. So I believe maybe there's some additional land also to the west side. Right. Couple parcels. Or that's all the same parcel.
Gene, are you talking about on this colored copy? You're talking about ID number 16003-0402.
That's right. Yeah, that's listed as state line. So.
What number were you talking about?
It ends in point dash 0402.
Yeah, it's these parcels here.
The 0402.
It says state line. Okay. So I guess, again, Scott's here tonight, and just looking for some comments. I would recommend that if it's going to come forward for a preliminary plat, we may need to resolve some of these issues, especially some of the lot width and so forth. And Scott and I have met just last week and talked about it to a certain extent.
Maybe if I could make a couple comments. Really, what I could have just as well went during open forum, but since I was on the schedule, I just waited. So essentially, there's kind of three things I guess I kind of wanted to just have the board consider. And this is more in general than just my property. Is it the board's desire, I guess, for that 1,400 feet for the length of a cul-de-sac to be a hard and fast rule? Because if it is, then you get properties like the 31 acres is the river conservation property that essentially becomes undevelopable. You cannot do anything with it. You can't build a house on it at all. You can't build one house on it because it exceeds the distance from the county road. So I guess that's one of the questions as to whether or not that is a hard and fast ordinance that the board wants to leave in place, which means then you end up with properties that just cannot be used for residential. I realize there's fire department issues, and certainly Dan can probably comment that. And, one of the things that has been said to me, well, what if a tree falls on the road? Well, there are no trees in the area where the proposal is, so are there potential opportunities for exceptions to that? And if so, what would need to be done for the exceptions? So I don't know if it's the town board's desire that we end up with significant pieces of property that simply cannot have housing on it because of that restriction and limitation. Number two question I had was, this is a relatively small proposal of 5 lots. The ordinances right now require the developer to put a paved road in there. Is that something that the board wants to require developers at all times? Now, I've sat through the last 2 years of township meetings saying, well, it's too expensive for the township to maintain paved roads, and yet we're requiring developers in all cases to put paved roads in. So a question would be, should that be reviewed by the town board as to whether or not that should be a hard, fast rule in all cases that there has to be paved roads? Because in this particular case, there's a gravel road, township gravel road, then you'd be adding a paved road off of a gravel road. There's a paved road, gravel road, paved road. Is that really the wisest way to design the roads as far as from a township standpoint? Or should there maybe be a review of that policy or ordinance from the township that perhaps maybe on smaller developments we should eliminate that requirement of having paved roads? Certainly that obviously saves long-term, according to what I've heard in the township meetings, it saves long-term funds as far as maintenance of those roads. So that's a question I guess and then thirdly, which kind of goes along with some of the things Jesse was saying, I think in the last few years there was a number of ordinances that were changed, such as road frontage requirements and so forth, to really restrict the ability to develop properties that really limited the ability. And you get these, I work with surveyors and trying to come up with these drawings, and man, you get some weird shaped roads and so forth, trying to meet these convoluted requirements that were put in place that oftentimes don't make any sense. And I'm just wondering if perhaps it wouldn't be wise to have the township board go back and review those ordinances that were put in place in the last few years to really say, do they make sense as much, or were they just put in place to put restrictions on developers to stop development from happening, and to drive up the costs? If we can drive up the costs, if that's the goal, then guess what? You're going to stop development because it will just become uneconomical to be able to do developments. So that's, as I said, it could have been more of an open forum, but I was on the agenda already. So those are kind of the 3 general questions I had posed to the board tonight, and something to think about, I guess.
More questions, comments?
Who did come up with 1,400 foot on a cul-de-sac? Is that the township or is that a state?
No,
I know it comes into an emergency vehicle, question there. Is that something said by the state fire marshal?
I don't believe it is. I believe it's just something you'll find again in a lot of subdivision ordinances.
But if if it's, well, we don't want to be too far from a fire hydrant, well, obviously that's a non-issue. no matter what, emergency vehicles, if they go out there, it's gonna be a tanker truck.
I think
Tender,
Well, for a
excuse
tanker,
me.
they send an airplane.
Okay, I'm sorry for not. But,
In
so
terms
then,
of,
I asked, what's the point of the 1,400 feet? I understand emergency access, but if we're building the roads according to township requirements, shouldn't the road be accessible? And the township is responsible for snow plowing, so I would think the road's accessible regardless of whether or not it's 1,400 feet or more.
Well, there's also issues with topography. I mean, we've got a river and we've got county road a mile each side of the river with really nothing else there. You know, we're dealing with a scenic and waterway that you can't access really from, like yours is 14. I didn't write them all down, but I looked up, we've got several roads that are well over 1,400 feet already in our township that are dead ends. 105th past year, I think it's 2,600 feet. I mean, so I don't know why we have necessarily what the 1,400 is, except for the fire emergency vehicles. I do agree with you also with the paving of a road. That's just not economical to be paving a road where you've got 3-4 homes that doesn't have the traffic volumes to go from a paved road to gravel to paved. I mean, this would be a T or a hammerhead.
it would have to be a hammerhead, and that's just similar to the Woods Push. It's not allowed within that district. Now, the River Conservation District, I haven't done a lot of research on that yet, but I believe when Scott talks about the standards being set, I believe those were set by model ordinances, and that's just, again, to preserve a fairly, low density in that River Conservation District. That's why those standards were in place. And I don't know if we could necessarily change those.
Kind of question the roundabout or the hammerhead. I mean, when Jesse brought his up, I mean, you can't tell me it's safer to have a truck pull in and back up and drive out versus coming into a cul-de-sac. I thought it was completely asinine that we made him put in a hammerhead over there. I mean, so some of the stuff we probably should be looking at, because the back of a truck without a spotter, I mean, I can't do that on the fire department.
Again, I believe that comes from state standards. I haven't taken a look at that. But again, River Conservation District, we probably didn't create those. They were created by the DNR. But I'll have to do some research. Before if he moves forward with the preliminary plat, we'll do that.
So the DNR requires a minimum lot size of 10 acres, so it's not going to be high density, and it requires a minimum buildable area of 4 acres. So my sketch, I'm going to have to do a little bit of adjusting, but just, it's not going to be high density.
Yeah, it just can't be because of the lot size. But again, that's exactly what we wanted, to get some feedback from the town board. Scott was looking for some answers on that. So, yeah.
I think we should probably definitely look at the length of our cul-de-sac roads. If we've got roads that got 2,600 foot long cul-de-sacs and we're telling everybody else, no, now they gotta be stayed at 1,400, well, maybe we should probably look at that and see if there's some sort of deal. We should be kind of coming up with some sort of a standard on that.
Well, that one, you're talking about that road, the dead end road by my place, that used to not be a dead end, there used to be a bridge through there. And then they took the bridge out and made it a dead end with a turnaround.
Yeah. And their 8 and 55th, I think, is like 2,200 or 2,100 feet. I mean, there's several along the river on both sides. That 155th down to 107th, that's a really long one also. That's a quarter mile by quarter mile one way and quarter mile the other. It's on the east side of the river.
Is that the one up by Zion?
No, it's up just off County Road 137. Go across 13 and take the gravel road to the south, and you go back in there past Payne's property. And then your road is yours has got to be 24 at least.
It's half a mile.
Yeah.
Just to the end of it, and then there's another property beyond that, but that's half a mile to that telephone pole at the end of the Whitcomb Avenue.
One thing too, it should have been in your packet, but Todd McLeod, the township engineer, had indicated in terms of the gravel, it says if 65th is extended, I'd recommend the developer escrow some sort of money to upgrade 65th from County Road 1, and minimum to widen and improve it to acceptable gravel section. He wasn't advocating a paved section.
Okay. It'd be like what they did on the west side.
Exactly what they did with TMK, yeah.
One of the, I thought I had it here in front of me, but I don't have it with the township, with the, you know, because of, you know, we're working with the county, we have to be more restrictive. And at one point I had it written somewhere in my ordinances here that, I think, don't quote me on this, but the county allowed a minimum of like smallest as 5 acre lots with like 100-foot frontage. And we're the lots are half the size, but we got twice the distance for frontage, road frontage.
But if we have our own established zoning and subdivision, that prevails over what the county.
No, I understand. I'm just, all I'm saying is,
for comparison.
I'm using as a comparison that our lots are able to be half the size, but our frontage has to be more than double what the, I mean, the logic doesn't really make sense.
And that's where it comes, I need to do some research on how that River Conservation District was established and who wrote those.
I believe I was on the planning commission at that time, and it was basically cut and paste.
Yeah, that's what I suspected.
Like in Oak County?
Probably from the DNR.
And the way our zoning is wild and scenic, it doesn't follow a very good pattern. It takes this word in and this word in and this word in.
Oh, as far as where the zoning was established, yeah, that's true.
But I do know that the road frontage requirements were expanded in the last few years.
Yeah, that's one thing I noticed too.
Quite substantially, which then puts a lot of restrictions on what you can do with your property.
Yeah, now last year I was looking at the zoning ordinances from 2007 to now, and there's a considerable difference in the road frontage.
And actually, the planning commission is looking at that, and we're looking at the frontage, whether it's, you measure the minimum frontage at the front lot line or the setback line. I think the tendency, the way we're headed is we're going to go to the setback line and not to the, it makes more sense.
A lot less things, a lot less hoops to jump through.
Craig would be happy. Craig is happy that I'm looking at that, so.
It makes sense.
And it gives more flexibility in terms of, and better lots design also.
Well, yeah, like Mr. Moller said, is trying to fit some of these things, just they don't fit with, when you have 10 hoops to jump through versus 4.
So I guess just direction to staff and to Scott, you're interested in us pursuing, the general design and having him move forward if he's so inclined. You don't have to take a motion on this. You get a sketch plan and you're just looking for some feedback.
I guess I would say we should probably sit down with Mr. Moller and try to come up with a little bit better sketch. Get rid of that little wedge.
Yep.
Outline 8. And there's something probably workable, but the way it is, I think that's my opinion.
The biggest thing is whether or not you're willing to work with me to overcome the 1,400 feet. I mean, we can resolve the rest of the issues, I think, but I can't shorten that distance.
And I guess that's up to the town board if they're willing to do a variance on the length of that.
I'm certainly willing to work with Scott to try to come up with a workable plan that fits the rest of the requirements, but that one, I can't work magic on that.
Well, but there were several of the lots that meet the front lot requirements, right?
And there's 2 lots.
Which ones were they?
3 and 4, right?
3 and 4, yes.
I think they do meet the front, technically, I think there's
If they
two
could be
different-
on curve, I thought we still had the 66 foot on curve.
That's not in their RC district.
It's on the RC.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But
Okay.
there are two numbers, if you look close there. You have to add both those numbers up, I think, to get the 330, Scott?
Yeah, I went through that, and again, I asked Scott to clarify that, because it wasn't quite clear if it actually did or didn't, but the way I actually scaled it off, and it did come to about 280 rather than the 330. So, again, some clarification from your surveyor.
Oh, okay. You're talking the 282 and the 56 foot?
Yeah, if you add those two together, which I think is what the intent was, but I don't know, I didn't survey it. It just appears that way based on the numbers on the map.
If you do change the road frontage from the road frontage to the setback though, then we can qualify. So the direction the planning commission is going,
It
if
may
they
be
go
a
that
moot
way,
point. Right.
then it'll be a moot point.
Well, one other thing I read too is minimum buildable was 4 acres, and we don't know that yet. We don't know what the minimum buildable is.
Well, the surveyor, I mean, I think he's put in here where, he's measured that out, that there would be 4 acres in each of those sites.
Oh, okay.
For a contiguous buildable area.
Yeah.
Yeah, we raised that as an issue, something that they should provide us more information if they go.
The surveyor is confident that we can meet that.
Okay.
What's the high water? It's probably on here somewhere. 100-year flood, I should say. Is that the?
I see 996.
It's 974 roughly.
Where do you see that?
It's on my plat across the highway, or across the river.
Well, I didn't see it on the sketch plan.
Okay. That will be denoted though on one of the plans.
That would be, yeah, be required as part of the plan report. Again, we're just in sketch plan here, so. So again, getting back to Scott's question related to comfort level with longer cul-de-sacs, especially in cases where you get a dead end, you get a river situation, there won't be a bridge that goes across, obviously. Is there a comfort level that he'd proceed ahead and look at some options for preliminary plat based on that?
Would there be a possibility of a loop?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I don't know how I could possibly.
Yeah, we looked at that. We looked at, if you got it right away from adjacent properties. Again, with the requirements in the AC, or Egg Conservation District, in order to build a road, you're just not going to get the number of lots to make it worthwhile.
Plus it's more for the township to maintain. It's not.
It's a lot more road for the township to maintain.
Is there any thought of, let's see, where's north? So this is state, what's this down here? Is there any thought of extending that back down to 13?
There's other property owners, tried to reach them, haven't been able to get anywhere at that point. Certainly could make some sense. And certainly I'm not against it, I'm certainly open to it.
Is that big?
It's some chimney.
But again, that's where you get into a lot more.
I think we got issues here with lowland and stuff too.
And a lot more road that the township maintains, and you're gonna get probably just a handful of additional lots.
Yeah.
If they want to develop it.
Oh, okay, that's true. Yeah, they have a quarter-mile road.
Just south of, or just west of 1. Just west of 1 and 13. Like a half a mile.
Going from the Ryan Church just north
and west,
half mile, and east, west, and
How's it being built now?
My personal opinion, I think there's just too many red flags being thrown. It just,
Red flags regarding what's not.
I mean, just the way everything's laid out with the river right there. I mean, just knowing that land right where it was, I mean, there is a lot of low-lying ground there.
Right, but the River Conservation District requires 4 acres of buildable above the floodplain, and there are on all 3 of those lots. So yes, there is lowland, but if you know where the river is there, it drops off quite sharply. And the houses themselves wouldn't even be close to the, where the low area is.
And there's setbacks from the bluff line anyway.
Absolutely, there's setbacks and there's adequate area to meet those setback requirements.
Is that taken into account for the buildable area?
Yes.
Okay, so that's removed, it's subtracted. Well, I'm just, because I'm looking at just lot 3 there, where you have a proposed, I know this is just a box with an X on it. I'm guessing that doesn't meet the setback for the bluff line.
Well, obviously, as part of the preliminary plat process, we'd have to work with Scott and the engineers to get a good spot on that. I think this is, concept drawing.
Yeah.
The design, the more of the question really is whether or not you're willing to, and I think, Tom, I can address the other red flags that have been raised, but I can't change the 1,400 feet. There's a lot I can work with Scott and the engineers to make it work. But I need to know really as to what the town board's position on that 1,400 feet, if that's a hard and fast rule, or if you're willing to look at that and offer potentially a variance in this circumstance. Because otherwise, I can't be the only property owner that has property that's that far off of County Road 1 or on the other side of the river. There's gotta be quite a bit of property that runs along that river that's off of the main road.
Scott, do you know, is the township, is the county, what do they have for cul-de-sac length?
Yeah, I don't know off the top of the head.
I thought it was significantly less. I thought it was 600 or something, but.
I mean, that township road right now ends in a farmer's drive in a yard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a good circumstance.
I think we should be able to look at some of the cul-de-sacs, and we got some pretty peculiar pieces of property, and like he's saying, I mean, this is stuff that was approved 20, 30 years ago. I mean, you can't cast something in stone, no, 1,400 foot, it can't be 1401. I mean, we gotta be able to look at something. We can't change what was developed or split off 20 years ago. I mean, go down to Green Lake and look at the lake lots, or go to any lake and look at the lake lots and the mess that's down by lakes. I mean, you gotta be able to look at some variance, in my opinion. And I'd wanna talk to, I don't know, have Ron make a call at the State Fire Marshal's office, see if they have any recommendation or any input on that. I don't know if that's something you wanna hear from or not. I mean, I can certainly see if Ron will reach out to them, and
that would be helpful. I'd like to know what they say.
You guys are gonna be the ones that are gonna have to prove it. I just don't, I don't wanna spend a lot more money on this project if you're just absolutely dead against it. But then you do leave a lot of property within the township that I'm not good. Probably in many ways some of the most valuable property in the township instead of the road.
With pleasure. What's the direction we take?
well, I would say first was, I can get a hold of the Ron or the State Fire Marshal's office, see if they've got any kind of recommendation there, maybe reach out to somebody from the north, see if North's got anything for any kind of recommendations as far as how long a cul-de-sac they want to see for their ambulances. And like he said, it sounds like the rest of the stuff, he's pretty confident he can address that and get that stuff straightened away. So right now we're stumbling blocks, that cul-de-sac or hammerhead, whatever you want to call it.
And I can do some additional research on, other examples. When you've got a situation where you've got, a low density and dead end situations adjacent to it.
Well, the other thing too is, if it goes as far as platting, and we go to a hammerhead, are we going to require the plat to show a cul-de-sac? Because then we're going to get rid of the curve, which is going to eliminate a 66-foot on curve. And I'm just...
Well, that's not a standard though in the RC, the 66 feet on curve.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. What is the standard?
It's 330 feet.
Okay.
Craig, what are you kind of seeing in different townships and stuff? Do they have any kind of different standards as far as cul-de-sac lengths?
For like the river conservation area,
Yeah.
I mean, like Sherburne County is more or less it's 1,400 feet across the board. There isn't any hard and fast rules. Every jurisdiction is different, so I don't think I don't think the DNR has a cul-de-sac requirement in the rule 6105, whatever it is for the. I think that's a state rule for recreational river districts, but I think it's just up to you guys more or less. But I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence. You know, I see both sides of the arguments when it comes to cul-de-sac lengths. A minimum I'd like to see 1,400 because if you have a 40-acre piece and you want to build out that 40 that's up to the road, and the next guy on the other side of the 40 wants to tack on and build off of it, you need to have at least 1,320 feet to get across the 40-acre piece. So that's where I think the 1,400 comes from, is 1,400 to get to the next 40. But, you know, I guess as far as safety vehicles go, if your cul-de-sac's 800 feet long or 3,000 feet long, if you got some obstruction right at the front of the road, the fire truck can't get either one, no matter what the length of the cul-de-sac is. But, so I don't know. I don't see any hard, fast rules everywhere else. But,
I know the MAT position is if something is not a hand or hardship to somebody, you should never grant the variance. And if you talk to MAT lawyers and say, well, what should we do about this variance? And they say, well, if you're going to grant the variance, throw your rule book out the window. So they say absolutely no variances. The city of Princeton gives out variances like, you know, basically like candy.
yeah, well, there's usually two options. You can either grant a variance or you can change your rules.
Right.
You know.
That's what I was kind of getting at. We're going to have to change the rules or grant the variance or deny it.
Well, I appreciate that, because I'm on the planning commission for Princeton, and we do offer variances quite regularly because it's an old city and there's a lot of things that just don't fit. And I'm telling you, we want to encourage development with still oversight from our board. And so we do grant variances as much as we can because we want to work with the parties to encourage proper development and growth in our community. And so, but it does require us to grant variances, but we have oversight at the same time. And so we don't just throw the rule book out the window. We look at each circumstance and make sure that it fits what our objectives are as a planning commission.
So the League of Cities and the MAT have very different views about ordinances and regulations.
Right, but even going back to much of the discussion tonight, there were a lot of things that were done in the last 10 years in this township for the sole purpose of stopping development. And we have a shortage of housing in this township and in the city of Princeton, and a big part of that is because we've stopped so much building. And I think that we should have we should allow building where it makes sense. We should allow growth where it makes sense. But we can't just say there's not going to be nothing. That makes no sense at all. And all it does is it drives up housing so much and cost-wise that nobody can afford it. And there's constant shortage of housing. And there's hardly any houses available for sale right now in this school district area because there's just no inventory.
So, Mr. Chair, we'll proceed and take a look at some additional examples, and we'll work with Mr. Moller and if we can check with the state fire marshal. We'll do a game plan here to move forward and try to get some direction to Mr. Moller to proceed.
Thank you for your time.
Can I get one more point of clarification? So I'm confused on the cul-de-sac. That is not allowed according to DNR statute in river conservation?
Looking into that.
We have to look into that.
Okay, all right.
Check rule 6105, but I don't remember seeing cul-de-sac links in there.
Yeah, it's just...
I'm not talking lengths, I'm talking cul-de-sac attachable.
The RC2 district specifically says no cul-de-sacs allowed. The length of the cul-de-sac is within our subdivision ordinance, and that's something we can change. But we'd have to check to see, again, if the DNR would have any issue if we did allow for cul-de-sacs within the river conservation, also the Wild and Scenic River District.
Oh, okay.
Thanks for hearing me, guys.
And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
The old business, Princeton Township reopening preparedness plan. Mr. Dooley, and then Mr. Rowe.
So basically took a boilerplate one from the Association of Townships. There's one thing I'd like to strike in there, and that was where it said, Township Board will be conducted by teleconference if possible. The only thing I'd have to change to that, I'd just like to strike that out of there because, I'll be honest, I don't want to go back to the telephone. I think it's a waste of time. I don't think we get anything accomplished. I'd just rather do it in person.
I'd agree with that.
So that was with Jason's, one that he sent out was just a boilerplate, one that everybody basically signs off on, so. But otherwise, yeah, it's wash your hands, well, yeah, we're learning that now. Use your blinkers if you drive a BMW, stuff like that.
Hey. I see Chevys with none of that problem.
So, but yeah, that would be my only suggestions to make changes to the preparedness plan, then we just fill in the blanks.
And you wish to make that official preparedness plan?
I would move to make this the official preparedness plan, striking,
Put lines there.
yeah, I had it here, where was it? Yeah, right up here. Township board meetings will be conducted by teleconference if possible when in-person township board meetings are held. Yeah, so we're just gonna strike that clause out of it.
So that's bullet what from the top?
Bullet 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Bullet 5 from the top.
And that's been a motion made, and is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the township preparedness plan as amended by striking the township meetings will be held remotely. Is there any discussion?
It doesn't have anything to say in there about requiring masks or.
Yep, so I'm just going in here, township buildings and offices will be open to the public. I would also, well, I guess now I need to amend the motion. So I'd like to amend the motion by adding township buildings will be open to the public. Employees are not required to wear masks or shields while working and or while interacting with the public.
I'll accept that as part of your motion.
Yep, I was amending the main motion.
Is there any further discussion on the preparedness plan? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of the preparedness plan? Just wait out. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion is carried.
I'll draft that up and email that to you guys then.
I think we all had a copy.
Yeah, I'll just fill in the blanks.
Very good. Resolution 2019.
Did you need this, Tom?
I've had a copy.
I'm just gonna fill in the blanks to email it.
Nothing on that.
Nothing.
Waiting to hear back from Jason.
Okay.
That one's tabled till next week's month.
And I had COVID on the list, but I think we already discussed that. Supervisors reports, road report.
All right.
You have 5 minutes, Bill.
It's fine. I'm hungry, Bill. It's getting late.
One of these times you guys
Okay,
are gonna do a short.
so the road report for today, sign policy, the handouts there, you can look at that, review it. I went through this with Jason, so he gave his blessing on township, the 911 emergency sign. It's not really a policy, it's more of guidance. But Doug, I would ask that we get that posted to the website when I send it to you electronically.
Yes.
The second is the roadside ditch mowing. This is the handout that I showed last week, and we made some minor change to that. So that's in your packet. I'd like, if we could get that posted to the website, please. And for those of you, I did make, I think, 10 copies, so they were up at the front, if you'd like, for those of you who are here with the public. Third one is a policy for roadside clearing of trees and brush less than 6 inches in diameter. That's in there. The only thing I really added was the reference material from the Minnesota Township document number TR 6000. we'll get that posted to the website.
One thing I had in your policies here, Bill.
Yep.
You said the first 8 foot. We have a 5 foot unit, so does that mean our tractor's gonna take 2 passes down?
For which one?
The second page there for drop the page.
What's a 5 foot? What's
Our mower is a 5 foot.
no, that not there. No, that's a,
The boom mower?
I'm talking the mower, the actual flail mower that we have.
Oh, okay, sorry. I was thinking the boom mower.
Oh, no, yeah, no. Thanks for, and then, I'll get to the other items there in just a minute. So, we've got all but 2 sections of the road are complete mowed. Right up by Doug, I think there's a couple sections of road that need to be done there. And then this last Friday, Dale and I went out and we cleaned up and brushed along Baptist Church Road. That's curved just south of the John Deere Midwest Machinery. And then all the way south along Baptist Church Road down to the auction company. There were just a lot of small trees that were growing up along the curves and obstructing the driver's view around those curves. So we got that all cleaned up. The road improvement project on 33rd and 82nd is complete. We do not have the final numbers from the contractor yet on where they came in at. I think we were sitting pretty good at that financially. We'll see how that is. The sections of road where chloride was placed are holding up really nicely. We've not needed to grade the test section at all. So with the rain we've had, it's held the road in place, and I've got several calls from the residents thanking the township for doing that. It's helped with washboarding and dust. And the other section where we did not chloride, which was about the same amount of traffic on, has been graded 2 to 3 times over that same amount of period. So we're definitely saving on the grading, and we're also saving on having to replace those fine particles with more gravel in the future. The next item is the dust control policy. That's an early draft. This is kind of where I'm headed next for the dust control. You guys, I'd like you to look through that as the months progress here. I think I've got road counts on approximately 17 roads now, and I'll have some more done by the end of this month. But just trying to get some sort of a road rating on when we are going to start applying calcium. I'm sorry, it's not calcium, it's magnesium chloride. And those types of things. So those are some of the things I'm going to be bringing to the board within the next few months to get some sort of an established policy on when we're going to chloride. And the benefits to that are mentioned here. And I would recommend, now that they have a lot of things online, LTAP courses, just everybody, if you get the time to refresh, just get caught up with roads if you can. But dust control reduces the dust level, improves safety and driver experience, improved air and water quality by reducing particulate matter and sediment runoff, improved quality of life for nearby residents, extended intervals between gravel replacement needs, and reduced maintenance costs through extended intervals between grader blading needs. And the one I like, reduced public complaints. So that's what we're going to be looking at over the next month or two. And then one other thing, the sign policy that was approved a few months back, is up on the website now. I'd like to definitely thank Doug for all the hard work that he's put into getting that website up and running. I really appreciate that. I know we're going to be able to start adding more information to that. And we, over the last year, we've talked about how this website is going to help to allow the public to become more informed and to get accurate information on what the township is accomplishing. So I would just encourage anybody who's listening in to go to the township to get the facts.
You have to go to it through the county's website.
No, this is our own website.
Yeah,
Don't do that anymore.
but I couldn't Google it. I Googled Princeton Township just while we're sitting here in the meeting, and it wouldn't come up under the hit list on the Google. But I went through the county's website and it's right there.
Yeah, what they did,
Yeah.
I requested that, they took down all the information except for the members of the boards, and then just put a link in
to our website.
So yeah, it's
So-
cool now.
What's gonna happen for quite some time until people start looking at it is you're not gonna come up in a search engine. You're too new. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I've already researched it. There's 38 to 40 places called Princeton anything. So Princeton Township, City of Princeton, Princeton, Town of Princeton.
Texas, New Jersey.
Texas, Illinois, New Jersey, Utah. And so all of them right now are coming up because of everybody's getting new websites. So a lot of it is to push out. You're gonna need to let people know via social media, things like that, because you're gonna want them to click it, and that way it will become more populated in this area. So, because it took me, an hour the one day to find the website. I actually went back into the meeting just to have the exact website name to find it because I was looking for an agenda.
And I think you put it on our annual newsletter. So
Right.
the website's in there.
It's one of the highlighted elements on that.
As well as a new email address.
It's clerk, what is it? It's, what, are you asking Doug what it is?
No, including a new email address.
Right. So thank you, Doug, for working on that. So I know that there was a lot of questions as to why things aren't getting posted. Is because it takes a while to get these things built. It takes a little bit to get this information formatted in a format that it's going to work.
We're almost built overnight.
That's right.
Destroyed overnight.
So there's another couple things we're going to do is we're going to hopefully construct a few turnarounds at some of these, we talked about the long dead ends where the plow trucks have a tough time turning around. I think I've got 3 of those kind of in plan. One of them is shared with 70th here with Bogus. No, who's north of us here? With Lee Mix.
Yeah, that's Bogus.
Yeah, with Bogus. On 70th, there's one, and at the end of 105th here where the bridge was removed, we're gonna get that fixed, and I think there was one other one we're looking at. That's pretty much it for the road report, other than we do have some road maintenance items that I've asked Kenny to get a whole list together, and he's worked at pulling some information together on what we need for the garage and what we need for maintenance of signs. So if you have that.
Yep, I've got it here. Basically, it's just some regular tools for the garage that over the last 15 years, anytime I've needed tools for what was needed, I've used my own. And when Dwayne was running the grader, it was the same way with him. He had a toolbox on the grader that had his stuff, so we really don't have much of anything out there. But I compiled a list of different things with the ladders and screwdrivers, a post puller for signs, good quality floor jack for the garage, things so we can service the tractor, and it amounts to about $1,350 for the tools. But when I was working with the grader out here, both of the batteries in the grader are shot too. They need to be replaced, and I Googled those at about $135 a piece. I could replace those for. But right now, anytime I need to even move it, I've got to charge each battery individually. It's a 24-volt system. It's kind of a pain to mess with it that way, to have a perfectly good piece of equipment that you got to jump start. I think the batteries are almost 9 years old on it, so they're well beyond. But it's going to amount to about $1,500 to get everything up. And
so when we sold that oil, we never got a cabinet back there, did we? A safety cabinet? What if we just took that money and put it towards?
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. We eliminated the need
we eliminated the oil barrels
for that, and it just
there'd be $700 right there, I think, or something.
It takes up a lot of, and this was good quality tools. This isn't just junk from Menards. In the same way with the floor jack, I want to get a 5-ton.
Yeah.
It's most of the time, if you're going to ruin a floor jack, you're going to overload it, and that's how you're going to ruin it. And we got a 5-ton. We'd never overload that in the garage, and it would be something that would stay there. I mean, I don't foresee buying things twice.
I think that was, I thought the jack was part of our AWARE program too, just for safety.
Yeah.
We need to be able to, if somebody gets, something falls on them, we need it.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of buying cheap stuff. I mean, most of these tools are all guaranteed. They're, you bust them, they get replaced. So it's kind of a one-time buy on most of it.
We've never had tools. I mean, we've talked to Ryan Dahlheimer when he was still running our own township trucks, and he said there's never any tools back there.
Well,
So
I
it's
talked
not-
to Marshall Forland, and he said there was, so I'm trying to figure out who's saying there was and who's saying there wasn't.
Who?
Well, the tools back there may have been my tools, because I've got enough tools to supply both places, but I don't really want to do it the rest of my life. I mean, I live a mile down the road, and if I needed something, I just took care of it. But I was kind of led to believe over the years that we really didn't have money to buy any of that stuff. I have to ask if I could buy a screwdriver. I'd just as soon use what I got and not jump through those hoops, but it would be nice to have the stuff on hand.
So we've never had a floor jack back there?
Nope. Nope, the jack that was in there, we've got some good quality tools for doing tire changes, because I changed some tires on the dump trucks one time, and I had to buy a set of sockets to do it for the Bud wheels, and I used my jack, I used my tools, and so when we got the air compressor, we got a good impact and impact sockets for changing truck tires, but that's the end of it. They really don't have a whole lot more than that.
We have a hydraulic bottle jar.
Yeah, we've got a bottle jack, air over hydraulic 20-ton bottle jack, but if you want to move a piece of equipment around on wheels, a good floor jack, jack it up, you can do a lot with it without hurting anybody.
You said that was total $1,500.
Total about $1,500, including the batteries.
Would this go into conjunction with our, not our money, but the CARES Act stuff? Because we initially didn't have it budgeted.
Yeah.
I don't know how you could say a floor jack's COVID related.
Somebody falls over from COVID, might need help getting them out of there.
They got a flat tire and they're in the hospital, I don't know.
I mean, that's,
I'm just trying to think outside the box.
I would think that would be a pretty tough squeeze on that one.
That one's really pushing it.
I'm just.
Yeah,
But regardless, we need this stuff.
And if we're not gonna buy it, if we kinda had already approved to spend the money on the hazardous stuff, and then we're not gonna use it.
Realistically, the batteries, that's not even related to,
No,
that's a separate expenditure all on its own. But you're basically looking at $500 then, additional that we
Oh,
need.
it's 13. Oh, yeah, but additional.
It's
though.
$1,500 total,
Right.
so.
We've already got 7
Yeah.
from the oil that we sold, that we never got the safety cabinet because we did away with that, so. I would move the motion to allow Kenny a $1,300 budget, minus the batteries for the road grader, for shop tools needed to make everybody here more efficient
Safe.
and safe.
motion's been made. Is there a second? Or did somebody
You don't
second?
want batteries for the grader?
That's a different.
That's a
pot.
different,
Oh,
that's
okay.
out of different
Gotcha.
pot, that's out of vehicle maintenance, that's not
Alright,
a tool fund.
alright.
I'd second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve up to $1,300 for tool expenditures. Is there any further discussion?
It's hit.
If there is no further discussion, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of allocating an additional $1,300 for, up to $1,300 for tool expenditures, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion's carried. I don't think we really need a motion for batteries.
No, just get them.
Yep. And anything else with roads?
No.
Fire?
Oh, fire. Yep. It was already brought up a little bit about the CARES money, that whatever we can't use here, it sounds like since we are part of the fire department and it's under our, that we could use that money for Lucas devices or turnout gear. So.
That turnout gear is a big one. That stuff's, there's, what, 39 guys on the fire department, and that's $1,500 a set, and it's gotta be replaced every 10 years. And we're on year 5, year 4. So.
And like you said, it's gonna come out of our pot of money someday because
Yeah,
we're
so-
financing the fire. So that was, let's see, what else did he say? Oh, the calls, Princeton Township had 5 calls last month. 1 EMS, 2 medical assist, controlled burning, and a dispatch canceled en route, so. That's all I have for fire.
Okay, Airport Commission Liaison, Federal FAA ran out of money, so the taxi lane reconstruction is put on hold. The runway is completed, except for a little bit of electrical work, but the taxi lane reconstruction that's supposed to be for next year is put on hold for the moment. City Planning Commission.
Was it over budget or what happened?
They just, FAA, because there's so many less flights, every time you take a plane,
Yeah.
part of the money for your ticket goes into a fund that goes out to all the different airports. And they're Class B and Class A airports where C's don't get any. Mille Lacs doesn't get regular funding. Princeton gets $150,000 a year. And then there's also a discretionary fund. The discretionary fund dried up because so many fewer people are flying. Did I say that right? So right now it's put on hold. The City Planning Commission was last night. They're finalizing the annexation. The state has it in their hands for annexing out 1.9 acres just to the west of the public safety building in what used to be Doug Marshall's property. The second part, we got in a little bit of a discussion last night. The city wants to partner or take areas east of the river. And they kind of put me on the spot. And I tried to explain the difference in zoning between our Zone A and our R1 and R2. And some people were saying, well, you should be able to go to 1 acre lots and all with septic systems. It's pretty hard to have a 1 acre lot with 2 septic systems, 2 septic sites, and then, well, everything should be 2.5 and we kind of got aimed at pretty hard last night.
So why do they care what we're doing in the township?
Because Scott Moller wants. He and Eldon Johnson basically would like to see us annex.
Why does the
like
city
Den
care
High
what
and
we're
so on
doing
into
now?
the city. Because they want the water access fees. And I'll probably get in trouble for saying this publicly, but that's.
That was a public meeting, wasn't it?
That was a public meeting last night, but it was kind of like after the fact, then they hit me on it. And there were people on the planning commission last night that couldn't believe what they hit me with.
It does, the whole 1 acre, acre and a quarter lot, I was under the impression that that was actually a recommendation by the state of Minnesota that it takes 2.5 acres to have a well, a septic, and a backup septic site. I mean, everything up here's gotta be the damn mound systems, and you can put them right back in the same spot, but isn't that right from the state of Minnesota that they recommend 2.5 acre lots on septic?
You know, I can't say for certain.
I thought there was something,
Yeah.
maybe I'm 100% wrong on that, and but I thought that was something from the state of Minnesota that they recommend 2.5 acres.
2.5 acres as a minimum. It's more commonly accepted at 2.5 acres for if you're gonna do 2 septic grain fields, one alternate and so forth, and do it well. So we can look at that.
They were trying to say, well, let's start with 1 acre lots because then we put city sewer water.
Oh, so they're asking the township to look at their regulations to go to a smaller lot size. So when they annex, it makes more sense.
Need more sag and whack fees.
Yeah, they're really concerned about trying to figure out.
What's that? So
it was interesting last night. That's as far as I probably already said too much. Advertise for snow plowing and road maintenance bids. I think we should
we need to get a heads up on that.
on snow plowing for sure now, and then we should have an idea when we should do the road maintenance bid. Because we haven't seen one since a year.
Yeah,
or 14
for
months or
the
something.
snow, or
Well,
both?
the snow we should get now.
Yeah.
For next, so next month we can tell. But then we should have a plan for when we're going to do the road maintenance bid.
Just
Just to be sure,
Yeah.
no, for the whole thing, for what Steve Haas has now.
Oh,
Because it's 14 months old, it's time, just so we know that we have
right.
something in place.
I thought we had something from, well, okay.
Well, we have, it's been 14 months or whatever with Steve, and
I think we redid it
and
this spring. We redid it this spring.
okay, maybe we did.
Well, yeah.
Anyway, it should be every spring, I would
Yeah.
think.
We had the bids.
Yeah,
I think we got 2 of them or something.
yeah, okay. But we gotta get it, we gotta,
Into one folder, bid back or?
Yeah, and, yeah. Yeah, I only saw 2. And basically, there's only one that really was a serious bid, and that was FEMA.
Anyway, just so we assure ourselves that we have a snow plowing operation in place, we should advertise for.
I'd say
so
do
we can
that
accept
the next possible, as soon as we can, to advertise them. I got snowplow stuff coming in left and right. I would move the motion to advertise for snowplowing for the township.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded to advertise for snow plowing. Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion's carried. I have one other item, hopefully very quick piece of information. The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency removed administration of subsurface sewage treatment system program from Princeton Township and assigned it to Mille Lacs County as the township's ordinance was outdated and they were not following statute and rules properly. Therefore, they turned over consideration of a request by John Foss to the county for Board of Equalization. I believe he sold the property and got an inspection, and his septic system is non-compliant, and he needs it doesn't have anything to do with us, but just as a point of information, he needs a variance from the county at their Board of Equalization. And normally the Board of Equalization would have to go through us to get to the county, but because it's no longer our jurisdiction, they can bypass us. That's all I have. Any other business to come before the meeting?
Assuming Jason didn't get the resolution where we were talking about bringing them trucks down or getting them on somebody's auction in September.
We have it.
Huh? Oh, okay.
I thought I sent this out, didn't
I thought did I get that from Jason?
Okay, so we have, he has a resolution, all it requires is specifically naming the vehicles.
Yeah, I got that this morning.
Agricultural zoning, they went to 10 acre lots.
Do we know what vehicles are would be part of that?
This is pretty much it. So this is the house, and this is the lawn, and that's
So we just
the
gotta name
rest.
the ball trucks?
It's all
Yeah,
leaves.
there's
We need to be
growing
specific
up.
about what.
Like, he says it just looks like a shell.
Still to vote on what?
Yeah, the resolution, the resolution just has that to fill in. If we know what that is, then you can fill it in and should be able to pass the resolution with those vehicles specified.
Do you know the dates or the models?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay. So,
They should be on the titles. We have the titles here.
yeah, that's another problem. We can get into the county in 10 weeks.
The big trucks, we don't have the titles for?
We may have, I think we've been looking for those, and we haven't been able to plan it.
That's what I've understood.
But anyway,
So there's a resolution to sell the 2 plow trucks that will be properly named and titled before we sign the resolution.
So it's the 2 plow trucks that are going in there?
Big orange ones.
Okay.
Sterling and the International.
It's Sterling International and there's the Ford, but
The Ford was titled under John Roxbury's name, I believe.
that's never been titled back into the Princeton. Technically, that's still his truck.
We should contact him to see if he wants it back.
Junkyard.
No money ever takes hands on it.
Just deliver it.
What's that?
Just deliver it. No.
Let me do some checking, because with me with the dealer's license, I can get into the DMV. Let me see, I might have to get together with you, because I'm a supervisor, so they probably would let me get a duplicate title.
Okay. So, from your standpoint, there's no urgency to do this month?
If you want to sell them in September, I would say, yeah, you want to do it this month.
Okay, and you're going to pass the resolution tonight?
I mean, that's my opinion, right now is the best time to be selling plows.
2020, 24.
So, resolution 2020-24 indicates that we, resolution to sell the 2 plow trucks, the Sterling and Ford.
International.
The International, I'm sorry. The Sterling and the International trucks at public auction through Hiller. Is that part of the resolution?
Correct.
Through Hiller Auction Company?
Hiller Auction Service Inc.
Okay, Auction Service Inc. So we have a proper, is there a motion to that effect?
I would move that motion.
Motion's been made. I'll second it.
Let's see, a motion to approve the resolution.
I would move the motion to approve the resolution.
Sorry, stickler.
You don't make a cake, you don't make a motion, you make a cake. You move a motion.
No, I just moved, you know, you have to say I can move. That's right.
Second?
And you can still second it. Is there any further discussion?
All abstaining myself from that.
Recused, Dan.
Is there any further discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of resolution 2020, authorizing resolution to sell the Sterling and International plow trucks through Hillary's. Signify by saying aye. Aye. No. Motion's carried.
Very good.
Anything else? Is there any further business come before the meeting?
Get out of here before 10. Put your hand up.
Andrea.
Just a quick notice, you didn't do an approval of the agenda?
Never did.
It's over.
I know, sorry.
We never have.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I thought you did approve agendas
The
before.
city does, we don't.
Oh.
It's all blurred together.
That's the thing, so like,
Yeah.
motion to
Oh.
adjourn though.
We're gonna have public forum again. Does anybody need to speak at public forum?
I'm pretty what?
We bored everybody to death.
When are the plow trucks going down for auction?
What's that?
When are the plow trucks going to be leaving here to
They're
go?
going to be on our September 8th online auction. Since I cannot do a live auction, we're going to do it in a 2-part auction. That stuff will be September 8th. I have Clark that works for us. He's got a Class A and an active CDL and a current health card, and I've got an IT plate. If you could get chargers on them for me and make sure that they're charged up and they can start.
Well, that's kind of the thought that I had, is I've got to replace the battery disconnect switch on the one from standing outside. That rusted shut, so that it had dead batteries on it. But I think it would be to our advantage to put the sanders on them to make them look as good as what they can be, that they're going to start, they're going to be ready to go. I mean,
How fast, well, how much time do you need for
well, I don't need a lot of time for it. I mean, I just wanted to know when they were going, when they'd be going down the road, because I'd like to tweak them up a little bit.
Can I have them by September 1st?
Yeah. I think the sanders ought to be on them rather than sitting in the box. And
I've seen guys do it both ways, really. I mean, when they, whatever way you wanna, I mean.
The
don't hurt
international
yourself,
I'm
but-
not so concerned about, but that Sterling, we put a lot of money into that Sterling on a truck that we paid pretty good money for.
Absolutely. And then-
Just, you know, it was set up so we'd be plowing with it. It wasn't a Band-Aid fix when they did that. It was a short block, and then that's a good truck. I hate to see that just get chopped up for pennies on the dollar for what some of these plow trucks sell for.
Yep. Did you ever find receipts? You were gonna look for receipts for the repairs on the single axle where we put all the motor and all that stuff?
Is there any further business? Did you have your hand up?
Yeah. No. Hope it's okay to speak. I just am suggesting that all members watch the meetings on the CARES Act, you know, and get informed as much as you can for what this, you know, so that you're voting on things you understand. I just, that's really important.
Is there any further business come before the meeting?
Starters come to your marks.
Then I entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that motion. Not me.
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor of adjournment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.